Hey everybody, are you ready to work smarter and faster in Photoshop by customizing it in 3 different areas? Are you ready for this? Let's do it! Hey everybody, welcome back to my channel. I am Stephen, the photo artist, and what we're going to focus on today is actually increasing our productivity in Photoshop by actually thinking about customizing in 3 different areas. There's a little bit of a disclaimer when we customize Photoshop. I'll talk about that in a few minutes. But once again, if you're new to the channel, if you could do me a favor, and that is like this video, subscribe, and hit that notification bell so next time I upload a video, you'll be notified on that. Okay, so before we get into customizing Photoshop, and again, 3 different areas, let's talk about the disclaimer, and that is if you're fairly new to Photoshop, you're not going to know what you want to customize yet until you get a better experience in the program and a stronger workflow. It's just important to know that you can do these 3 things when you are ready for it. So let's take a look at Photoshop right now, and we're going to cover those 3 different areas. Okay, with the program open up, this is your basic interface, the way it looks when you install Photoshop. When I teach live classes at a school in Michigan, the computers they have there, and some people bring their laptops also, which I prefer because people are used to the layout of their keyboards and stuff. And the thing is that everybody has their set at the standard settings. And so I have to teach from that. But I want to show you a screen capture because this is the computer that I train off of. But the actual one I use in my studio will look like this. So I had to do a quick screen capture of this. And we're going to analyze this really quick. And that is, if you look at the interface here with a file opened up, you'll notice over here that this side on the far right side looks different. Let me move this over to this side. And that's called your essential workspace right there. So mine is a custom workspace. So that's number 1 area that we're going to look at is custom workspace. Number 2 area that we're going to look at is over here on the far left side, and that is our toolbars. Look at the toolbars here, your default setting. Look at my toolbar. Because I've discovered that a lot of the tools and features in Photoshop are not designed for photographers. They're really for like illustrators and design layout people, and it's stuff that we typically don't use. So if I don't use it, why do I need to see it on the toolbar and cluttering up the toolbar, and I have to hunt and look for things? So I consolidated the toolbar and only put the features in there that I use. And that's the sort of gotcha, because if you're new, you don't know yet what you use a lot and what you don't use a lot of. So the point is, it's just knowing that you can customize the toolbar. And in the 3rd area, which will be the last area, and I'm going to throw a little bonus in on that if you stay to the end of the video, and that is shortcut keystrokes. You can actually add your own custom shortcut keystrokes in certain areas if you wish. If you try to add a keystroke that exists somewhere else, it'll give you a warning that you can't. And I'll show you an example of that a little bit later. So let's talk about customizing our workspace, and let's talk about this more in depth. So let me close out of this image, and let me open up this file right here. It has a lot of layers. Okay, so you can see that this is called your essential layout. This is what you get when you install Photoshop. I would just remember this. Under Window drop-down menu right here at the very top, all the panels in this program are located in this drop-down menu. So you'll see things that have a check mark like color, layers, properties, the different panels that are open up right now. That's what you see on the far right side. And over here at the very top, you'll see something called Workspace. And this is my workspace. We'll look at that a little bit later, but that's what I use when I do training workshops. And I'm going to create a custom workspace for you here. But you'll notice that Essentials is your default setting. So let's say that I don't want the default setting. I want to create my own custom workspace so I can work faster and smarter in the program. So here's what we do. First of all, open and close the panels that you want to have open or again closed, and rearrange them the way you feel that you would work more comfortably in the program. So as an example, this very top part, this panel, I don't use those features at all. So I'll just actually click right here on this icon. You'll see a drop-down menu. I'm going to choose Close Tab Group. So that entire group will close, and you'll see that this changes to Properties, Adjustments, Libraries. I will typically use these three, but I don't like Libraries over here. I'm going to move that a little bit later. I want Properties as my default, and I'm going to come down here to Layers. Let me move this over a bit, and I'm going to click here and drag with my mouse up to the very top. I'm just going to relocate this, position it right there, and I'm going to pull this down. The reason I want to move that is I work with a lot of layers in my projects, and I want to be able to see more layers on the monitor rather than a small area on the far right at the very bottom. When I'm teaching a class, I like to have this open because I'll reference these items down here, these little shortcut buttons, and if I had this toward the bottom, the default setting, and that was over here on the far right side, people in the classroom, I would say about the third row to the fourth row, even though we have a large screen in the classroom, it's hard to see the very bottom of my screen that's being on displayed there. And so it's easier if I'm able to show the bottom of the layers panel over here. So I can have it down like right there, and everybody in the class could see it at that location. So that's why I have that pulled out to the side when I'm actually teaching. Normally my default for me personally, my customized one, this is pulled all the way down to the bottom. Okay, with that set up like that, let me show you how you would save this customized workspace. And again, I'm going to go over here. I forgot to do this, Libraries. So let's pull this. I'd like to have that down here at the very bottom. I should do an extended video in the future talking about the library and how that also could save you time by saving in, say, features that you use a lot in your workflow. Instead of going finding that texture, that image, object, whatever, you can actually click and drag over. I actually have different signatures I've used in the past, and I can just click and drag to drop in my signature real quick and easy. So that's the purpose of libraries. So that's a subject for another time. Okay, so how do I save a custom workspace? Let's say, okay, I'm done. And by the way, this Libraries tab, I could click and drag to change the location in that grouping if I want. So I'm just going to leave that right there. Here's what you do. Windows drop-down menu, Workspace, and you just choose New Workspace. When you click on this, a dialog box will open up. Give it a name. I'm just going to call it Demo. And then you could actually save keyboard shortcuts. I will talk about that a little bit later. That's up to you. If you customize a toolbar, that'll also be saved. But right now I haven't done any of that. So I'm just going to choose Save right here. And now I'm done. I've actually created a customized workspace. So if I go to Windows as an example, and I go to the drop-down and I choose Workspace, and I'm just going to choose some of the default workspaces that Photoshop gives you, like photography. Click on that. You might like that interface, or start there and modify it based on your needs. But let's say I'm in that workspace, and I go to Windows, Workspace. There's my demo. Click on that, pushes it right back to where I had it before. So that's my custom workspace. To get rid of a workspace, you cannot be in the workspace to delete it. So as an example, if I go to Windows, Workspace, and I choose, let's delete the workspace, I can't access the demo one because that is my active workspace. I have to be in a different workspace to delete it. So I'll just cancel that. And I'm going to go to Window, Workspace, and I'm going to choose my workspace. That's what I'm going to use for the rest of this demo. So I'm just going to click on that. And that's typically what I use when I'm doing training here. Windows drop-down menu again, Workspace, and I'm going to choose Delete Workspace. And Demo is the one I'm going to choose. That's selected right there. But notice that my workspace is active, so that's not available to me to delete. I would have to be in a different workspace. So Demo is selected. I choose Delete right here, and that is now confirming that. Do you want to do that really? Yes. And then Windows drop-down menu, you'll see that the demo workspace is no longer there. So that's number one area that I would consider customizing based on your needs. And again, this will happen down the road if you're fairly new in Photoshop. You'll determine certain panels that you use over and over and over again, and other ones you don't. Get rid of the ones you don't use, and then rearrange the ones that you do use based on how you want to work, and you just increase your productivity a little bit better, a little faster there. Okay, next thing, let's take a look at the customizing something called the toolbar. And this is your generic toolbar right here on the far left. If I go to Edit drop-down menu, come toward the bottom down here, it says Toolbar, select that. This is the area that you can actually customize your toolbar. So as an example, I'm not going to go through all the things that I've done on mine, but I'll show you my logic and thinking, and that is the artboard, I just don't use that feature, so I click and drag to the right. It's no longer going to be available to me on that toolbar. Okay, these are all selection tools. I don't use this. Mostly graphic designers and illustrators will use this. I don't in photography and my photo art, so I got rid of those two. But the lasso tool, I'm going to move that in this grouping because all these have to do with selections, even object selections, quick selections, and magic wand. These are the tools that I use, and I've grouped them all in one spot. Okay, crop tool, perspective slice. I don't use that. That was typically used a lot in web design type of things in the past. Frame tool, I'm going to get rid of that. So I'm not going to go through everything, but I just want to show you that when I do this and I click on Done in the dialog box, you'll notice over here on my toolbar now, on that flyout menu, when I click down and hold, these are all my selection tools, all located in one spot for me, and even my shortcut keystrokes should work on that. But I just don't want them scattered all over the place. So that's what I did, where I turned a lot of features off in the toolbar that I don't use. That's why I got a short toolbar, and a lot of things that you don't visually see, I can actually access it quickly with shortcut keystrokes, which we'll talk about a little bit later. As an example in workflow here, if I go back to Edit and come back over here to Toolbar, you'll see some icons here at the very bottom, and I'm going to turn these off. You're going to see this feature here that allows you to access hidden tools on a flyout menu. I really don't need that, so I'm going to click on that to turn that off. My chip color is black and white. I mean, that's up to you. I know how to do it by default with keystrokes, but I'll leave that there. I'm going to get rid of that right there, that feature, and maybe this feature right there. So notice how that disappears over here on the left side. Now, zoom tool, let's come down here to the bottom. And the hand tool, I'm going to get rid of rotate. The hand tool, I'm going to get rid of that. And the zoom tool, I'm going to get rid of that. I really don't need that. So if I click on done, the first reaction with people is, well, what if you want to zoom into that image? Well, a couple different ways I can do that really quick. One is Control plus with the Control key. That would be Command on a Mac. And if I do Control minus, I'm zooming in or out. And that would be Command minus on a Mac. If I do Control 0 on my keyboard, that does what's called auto fit. And that would be Command 0 again on a Mac. But I also know this, when I'm working, if I hold the Control key down on my keyboard and spacebar, it converts. Let's say I'm going to do some touch-up work here with the healing tool. And let's make sure I'm on an image, right there. And I need to zoom in. I know if I hold Control spacebar down, I can click and drag to the right or left, okay, to zoom in and out. Now, a little tip here. If I click and drag to zoom in, and then I let go, and I'm doing some touch-up work with this tool, and now I need to scan around and look at other parts of my image, always remember this. It doesn't matter what tool you have available right now or what tool that you're actually using. If you hold the space bar down, it will convert that tool into a hand. So I'm going to hold the space bar down. Notice that it changes to a hand, and I can click and drag and move around my image and say, oh, I need to work there. I let go. I'm back to that default tool I was using before. Do a little work there, space bar down, go over here, do some work there, space bar down again, scroll around, and I'm just scanning around at areas that I need to work with that particular tool. And then when I'm done, I'll just do Control 0 fill that screen. And notice that I didn't need the buttons on the toolbar to do that kind of stuff. I didn't need the hand tool. I didn't need the zoom tool. And that's the importance of knowing the quick shortcut keystrokes so you can work faster instead of manually going over a toolbar, click on something, going back, and then going back to the toolbar, back and forth. You find that you can just work faster once you get a feel for those shortcut techniques right there. Okay, I'm just going to share something else with you. If you have, well, I'm going to decline saying this, but obviously it's being recorded here. Yeah, you know, in life, you can't take things so serious all the time. You want to have fun. So if you have access to a friend's computer that uses Photoshop, come down to toolbar over here and choose this feature right here. And that is Clear Tools. I'm going to click on that. Make sure all of these features are turned off and then click on Done. And when they open up Photoshop, there's our toolbar. And they're going to say, oh, something happened to my toolbar. They go, what'd you do? I didn't do nothing. Oh, it must be a son of a glitch in the software. And just have a little bit, friendly, fun joke with them on that. But to get this back real easy, edit drop-down menu, come down here to toolbars again. And that's all you have to do is select this button that says restore to defaults, which I'm going to do now. And brings everything back to the way it was before. And click on Done. Okay, so that's the second area that you could increase your productivity in this program. And that is, let me just close out of this for right now. I'll leave that open. And that is number one, customizing your workspace. And number two, customizing your toolbar. And just put the things that you need and maybe organize it in a logical way that it makes you work faster. And again, if you're new to Photoshop and haven't been using it that long, right now you don't really know what you use a lot of because you haven't built a strong workflow. But that will happen over time. And so it's just important to remember that you can customize this based on your needs. I've heard different people say, and I don't have time to figure this out because everybody's different on what they use in Photoshop, but I hear that the average person barely uses 10% of the tools that are in the toolbar. So if you're not using 80% of those tools, why are they even there to begin with for you, right? They're used by other people that use certain techniques in Photoshop because, again, they might be an illustrator or a designer, and they're going to use features that typically photographers won't. So again, consider customizing that toolbar. Okay, the next area is going to be shortcut keystrokes and how to do that. In fact, you know what? I really don't need this open up. So by the way, just to show you, if I click on something like this right here, this layer, let me highlight that for you. So if I double click here, you'll see in properties, I like to have that right there for me. That's why I customize my workspace. I want to have properties at the very top. My library is easy to access here to move things into my composite. And then all my layers are right here. So again, if I go over here to choose something else like this one, and you'll see that is showing me the entire curves properties right there. If I choose this, this is showing me the entire brightness and contrast properties right there. So I'm going to close out of that. And then the last thing is creating your own custom shortcut keystrokes. Now, there's a lot of keystrokes built into Photoshop, but if you want to create something that you use a lot, you found out there isn't a shortcut keystroke, here's what you do. Go to Edit drop-down menu, and I'm going to throw in a little bonus here at the end, but come down here to Shortcut Keystrokes. This interface will open up, and I will do a session down the road on smart object layers. What is a smart object layer? How do you create one? And why would you even create one? And I use that quite often in my workflow. And I know it's under layer drop-down menu. And if I come down here, maybe about halfway down, there we go, convert to smart object. If I click on this right here to highlight that, you'll notice that there is no shortcut keystroke. So if I want to make one up, and I'm just going to do Alt-Control-S on my keyboard, and I get a warning, oh, you can't use that. That's already being used elsewhere, so I'll delete that. Well, how about, I don't know, Alt-Control, F. Oops, this, make sure I select that. Nope, can't use that one either. Okay, so you're going to get these warnings, so you just delete the shortcut keystroke. Make sure I select this again. And I know that Alt, and since it's deleted out, we did the delete shortcut right there. Again, this is blank. And I believe that Alt Control D, like in David, is available. Yep, it is. So if I accept that, that will be a brand new shortcut keystroke for a smart object layer, or to convert a layer to a smart object layer. I'm not going to accept that. I'm just going to delete that shortcut right there. But it's important to know that you can add those shortcuts. I'm going to show you a little bonus here, and that is, well, what shortcut keystrokes do I have in the program by default? And that is this button right here. It's called Summarize. If I click on this, you'll get a dialog box that'll open up. You can give it a name. I'll just keep the default name right there. And I'm just going to save it in a certain folder. And this HTML file will open up in your favorite browser, whatever your default browser is. And this will show you all of the shortcut keystrokes. Now, most browsers have the ability to do this. If you go to the print feature, now I'm using Microsoft Edge right here. I'm just going to choose print in the drop-down menu right here. And then I'll get this dialog box that opens up, and this is where I would have access to a printer if I wanted to print this out. But I'm just going to save this as a PDF file right here. And so with this, I'm going to choose Save, and I'm going to put it in the same folder there. Click on Save, and that should be done. So I'm going to close out of this, and I'm going to cancel that. Let's pull out of Photoshop, and let's see if I have that folder available to me. Yep, there we go. So there is the PDF file. So I'll double click on this, and then again, it's saved as PDF, but you can also go through here and print this out so you have a hard copy. So if you added any customized keystrokes in here, it would also be available and show up in your PDF file. Okay, so hopefully you learned something in this session. Let me just minimize that, and we'll bring Photoshop back up there. So consider 3 things to do in the program. Number 1 is to customize your workspace. Number 2 is to actually customize your toolbar based on your needs. And then number 3 is get in the habit of using shortcut keystrokes. Start to learn the core common ones. Nobody knows all of them. I know maybe about 20 shortcut keystrokes that I beat to death and use all the time. And I actually have created a couple custom keystrokes for myself. So you know how to do that for yourself right there. And that is the 3 area, and that is know your shortcut keystrokes. Create a couple, 2 or 3 based on your needs if you want, and you know also how to print out a PDF file or save a PDF file, and then you can print it out later, and you can actually study all the shortcut keystrokes available to you. And now I always highlight the ones that I would typically use a lot, and those are the ones I focus and memorize. So again, hopefully you learned something. If you could do me a favor, I've already had some people respond. If you could check at the very bottom of the screen, hopefully my email address should be there. Please email me if you have any questions about what we talked about today. But if you have any suggestions on future things I should talk about, either in photography, as a photo artist, or in Photoshop, or some other program that you feel I should take a look at and give you my unbiased opinion on it, let me know, and I'll add that to the group of things that I have coming down the road in the future. The other thing, just a reminder, if you like this, please like this video, hit the subscribe button, and activate and hit that notification bell, so the next time I upload something, you will actually be notified that a new video has been uploaded. With that out of the way, you guys know my ending, and that is get that camera out, start shooting, make a lot of mistakes, get creative, and keep thinking out of the box. Until next time, see ya!